Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
He picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best, here as always with Sterling Holmes and producer Richard. Sterling, I guess the good news is we're 2-0. The Chiefs are 2-0, and they haven't even played that well, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, against two teams that I think a lot of folks expect to be there, at least in the playoffs or close to it, and potentially even going after the 1 seed. So, again, I think there's 2 ways of looking at it. They've not played great football, but they've not played great football, and they're 2-0. That should be the main takeaway.
And the other takeaway is I heard that since they went to 7 teams per side in the playoffs, if you start out 0-2, you have a 5% chance of making the playoffs. So I still think the Ravens are going to make the playoffs, but I look at the Bengals and I know their schedule is not that hard, but I don't see both these teams starting off 0-2 and getting to the playoffs. It just would totally buck the trend so far. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the Ravens are still going to be there. The Ravens I still think are a really good team, although they have a tough matchup against the Cowboys in Dallas this week. They could easily start off 0-3, and I would not be that surprised. Bengals have been 0-2 before and have made the playoffs and even made an AFC championship game. But yeah, at some point, those 2 teams are going to be playing against each other, and that's when things get really interesting. It's definitely a great spot to be if you are Kansas City.
I was definitely surprised by that Raiders win, but I will tell you, I watched a lot of it. Brock Bowers is the real deal, man. We're going to be having to hear a lot about that guy for the next 10 years or so. Just warning everybody. Not that the Raiders are ever going to have the Chiefs number or anything like that, but he's going to be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, that dude is an absolute stud. And I do want to give a huge shout out to Underdog Fantasy, okay? Because Underdog is back because it's the greatest time of the year. Once again, when football's back, Underdog. This is when it's really fun because with over 1 million fans across 33 states, they got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. You can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats. See, I love it because I do this fantasy football draft. I drafted Christian McCaffrey first overall in my season-long one. Well, McCaffrey's hurt, so I'm pretty much screwed. Okay? Sucks. But when you use Underdog, basically every single game is a fantasy football draft. I'm doing one that was Monday Night Football combined with this week's Thursday Night Football, right? So it's a lot of fun. I'm in a draft with 3 other guys, so I don't even know. So there's 4 of us total. And you do a draft and you pick players. So it's like an individual fantasy football draft. And I can win. Look at me. I could be a winner. And I can do it right there on Underdog. I actually really, really enjoy this. So make sure you go to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. And if you sign up with promo code Arrowhead Addict, Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Arrowhead Addict to claim this new customer special. You must be 18 plus, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
I got to tell you, our listeners who listen on 1.5 or 1.75 or 2.0 speed are absolutely screwed during that read because you just ripped through it.
It was pretty slow for me.
At the end there, I thought it was Xavier Worthy speed compared to what I could do on that. So I was impressed. But I love Underdog. We've had Hayden Winks on the show before, friend of the show. And what's great about it is we're talking about Brock Bowers. If you didn't get any of Brock Bowers in your portfolio and you're missing out, like Underdog has a chance to fix all the things you got wrong in your fantasy draft. So it's a lot of fun. I definitely spent a lot of time over there. I love Best Ball Mania. I think that's over, but maybe there's Best Ball Mania Resurrection or something. So definitely check it out. Time for today's segment. 2 weeks in, I think we've got a lot of questions that are not yet answered. So let's get to those 10 burning questions.
So when you say psychosomatic, you mean like he could start a fire with his thoughts?
That's great.
We might start some fires with our thoughts today.
That's new. Richard,
yeah,
good job,
that
bud.
is new. Thanks to
Richard.
Hooking it up. What else is because of Richard is our old friend, the Countdown Otron 8008, also known as Boob. So
wow.
we got that back.
Get your mind out of the gutter. It's just 8008, best.
I know. We are allotted 3 minutes per answer. So let's just jump in rapid fire style. The first one, kind of a hard one, among defensive linemen with 25 pass rushes, Mike Dana has the lowest pressure rate and George Karlaftis has the third slowest average time to pressure. Throw in FAU, not playing a lot of snaps. And should we be concerned about the edges?
Yes. Short answer, yes. I like Karlaftis a lot. He'll get it figured out, but he's not typically a quick winner to begin with. That's not his style. Very good player. Really, really good player. I'm not necessarily concerned with him, but you'd like to have someone on the other side with a little more bend. I like Mike Dana. He made a great strip on the fumble that ended up turning into a touchdown for KC. But strictly speaking, in regards to getting pressure, to getting after the quarterback, he hasn't done hardly anything. It's been a little disappointing, quite frankly, for Mike Dana. Turk Wharton's been solid. Chris Jones has been solid in the middle, obviously. Even when he kicks outside, he's been great. But as far as the Karlaftis, Mike Dana, and then if you want to sprinkle in FAU is concerned, the actual edges, I am a little concerned here.
Yeah, we're kind of getting back to where we were a few years ago, where Chris Jones just wasn't getting enough help. And I know it's a small sample size, right? 2 games. This could just be the bad end of variance. And Mike Dana and George Karlaftis could show out from here on out. Also, it needs to be said, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League, 2 well-coached teams. So they're going to try to mitigate that pressure. But also, you're playing next to Chris Jones, who is a top 5 defensive player in this league, who should make life easier for you. And I don't even think these guys, who both are high motor players who usually don't win early, but end up winning late, a lot of cleanup sacks, a lot of hustle plays. We're not even really getting those. And I just think Charles Omenihu cannot get back soon enough, because Charles Omenihu is a guy that can win quick. I would say he's more of an athletic freak than any of the other 3 guys. He's more of a game wrecker. Maybe not as fundamentally sound or as predictable down to down, but I definitely think he was doing some serious damage during that stretch run last year, and getting him back by the end of the season could really make this pass rush more formidable heading into the postseason. Now FAU, he only played 12 snaps last week. And I think we're getting to the time where we're kind of running out of excuses for why he's not on the field. Especially if these other edges aren't showing out, it's kind of like, well, I don't know. And these other edges can also kick inside, which the snaps are there if he earns them. That's where I'm at. And I don't think he's earning them yet.
Yeah, and I think eventually, though, Cam Thomas will get a shot. I think more or less the Mike Dana spot, because Dana will kick inside more than Karlaftis. Karlaftis will be obviously locked up there on one side, but I do think if Dana continues to not get a ton of pressure, you'll see a larger rotation, a larger snap count for FAU or Cam Thomas.
There you go.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
Number 2, Rashee Rice is now 5th in the league in yards per route run, up there with superstar receivers like Justin Jefferson and Nico Collins. I think the other 2 are Rashid Shaheed, who's just been playing out of his mind so far. Just been really cooking 2 long bombs 2 weeks in a row. And then Chris Godwin, who's in that kind of old Cooper Kupp role, looks fantastic. So that's elite company. And my question is, does the offense now run through him?
I think the answer is yes. I don't think the whole Travis Kelce washed up stuff is fair. I'm not quite there yet after he just dominated in the postseason a couple months ago. But it does feel like the baton's being handed from Travis to Rashee. And you can look at this almost as a positive, because we've been wondering for a while, what's life after Travis look like? I think you're looking at it. I think you're looking at Rashee Rice being being Mahomes' favorite target. And we said it week 1 when he threw one of those really bad interceptions. He goes, yeah, Travis was open. I should have taken that. I was just trying to force it to Rashee. My mind was blown. That should tell you that the offense is starting to transition to more of a Rashee Rice focused. And again, right now, Mahomes has made some bad throws. Not all have been obviously targeting Rashee Rice. But I think this is almost positive going forward as far as for the future of KC, the emergence of Rashee Rice as a legitimate, I don't know if I want to say elite wide receiver yet, but really, really good wide receiver. This is good news.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the offense does roll through him. I actually last week was sitting there thinking they could have got the ball to him more. And obviously the Bengals and other teams are going to start trying to take that away. But with Rashee Rice being so good at busting zones and finding holes, and he's kind of got a little bit of that juju Travis Kelce thing for such a young player, where he's really on the same page with his quarterback when those plays are extended and defenses break down and they're kind of improving. He knows how to get open for his quarterback. He's very quarterback friendly, I think Patrick Mahomes would say. But what I really appreciate in the maturation of his game, the big question for a guy that came in with a super low ADOT last year, 38% of his routes were slants. So just kind of a yak king. Can he beat man? Can he be more of a vertical threat? And last week we saw him out there wide with a pretty good athlete at corner, pretty good corner, and he dusted him for a 44-yard touchdown. So I think we're seeing a player that we have to raise the ceiling on. I think I said Sunday that I'm starting to think of him more like a potential Brandon Ayuk or peak Chris Godwin. I think this is a guy who's probably in the top 20 receivers in the league right now, who could potentially crack the top 10 or 12, given that he's in an Andy Reid system with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I've been thrilled by his growth and the emergence of not just at the line of scrimmage, a little farther down, right? Again, burning Cameron Taylor-Britt was poetic, if you will.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
Number 3, let's keep this one short and sweet. Does Kareem Hunt have anything left in the tank?
Before today, I said no. After hearing Andy talk a little more, I think a little bit. Now, it's not 6 years ago in 2018 Kareem Hunt. If you're showing me highlights of that, then you're the same person that thought Josh Gordon was going to be a stud. I think you're delusional. But if you're telling me he could be a useful player, yeah, I think so. He had 9 touchdowns last year, and he was injured, right? He had to get surgery. He had a whole stomach thing going on. It was a hernia comboed with one of those core surgery type things he had to get done. He was fighting through it. But there is a reason why, with Nick Chubb being injured, the Browns said, no, thank you. The Browns said, we'll go with Jerome Ford and whoever else. No, thank you, Kareem. We're okay. The Chiefs are in desperation mode. The Chiefs are clearly in desperation mode because we were all pretty much told, a lot just in general, the Chiefs are never going to go after Kareem Hunt again. It's done. Those bridges are burned. No chance. Well, desperate teams, desperate measures. Kareem Hunt, I think, can be useful because he's a good pass catcher. He's a solid pass protector. And it's no longer a tell if it's Samaje Perine back there or Carson Steele. I think Carson Steele will get first and second down. Samaje Perine third down. I don't think Kareem Hunt plays this week. I think it's going to be Keontae Ingram as Keontae Ingram is already called up from the practice squad under the 53. I think Kareem Hunt, though, can bring something in the red zone where the Chiefs have struggled mightily over the past even couple seasons. As a strictly football move, I actually see it making a little bit of sense.
Yeah, and hopefully he's got his life together. It seems like the Chiefs are comfortable with Kareem Hunt, the person, being back in the building. So I won't speak to that. But Kareem Hunt, the player, on one hand, you're like, it doesn't matter if he's not fast because his game was never built on speed. On the other hand, you're like, did he really have, as like this 4'7" guy, did he really 4'6", 4'7", did he really have a step to lose? But I do think as poorly as Kingsley Suamataia played last week at left tackle, just absolutely wrecked by Trey Hendrickson. A guy that can pass protect and knows the offense and isn't another piece that Patrick has to familiarize himself with and Andy has to familiarize himself with. I think they're just comfortable with Kareem Hunt stepping in and making things happen right away and being safe when they're trying to salt away games or down by the goal line, or if they need just a little dump off check down on third down. He's a guy they trust, even if he isn't going to bring that Jet McKinnon explosive element to this offense.
I will again say tamper expectations.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
When you said Josh Gordon, I think you accomplished that, my friend. Number 4, the Chiefs are giving up 138 yards per game to tight ends. What is going on with the linebackers and safeties?
Well, one, I think, was good game plans by the Bengals. I do. That was a lot of in space, right? That was a lot of find the soft spots up against zone. Sometimes you tip your cap and say that was a good game plan. But back-to-back weeks now, that's starting to become a trend. Now you play the Falcons, Kyle Pitts, potential, but we at least know he's talented. We'll see what actually happens once the game rolls around, because if you play fantasy football, you know Kyle Pitts has always been potential, not a lot of substance. I'm actually not quite as worried about Nick Bolton as I am Drew Tranquill. Nick Bolton hasn't looked great, but he looked better last week. You could tell week 1 was him knocking the rust off. He played 80 snaps week 1 as well. That was getting his legs underneath him. He looked a lot better, in my opinion, week 2 against the Bengals. A lot of the ones against him were more or less zone coverage situations, not necessarily him and man or something like that. Drew Tranquill, on the other hand, looked bad. Outside of one play, Drew Tranquill looked pretty bad. And I looked up on PFF just to see if my eyes were telling me the same thing. His coverage grade, according to PFF, was a 29. That's like historically bad. That's hilariously bad. I think Drew Tranquill gets it right. I think he gets it figured out. He's way too good. And it's not all just one guy. It's got to be a multitude. It's a defense, right? It's an amoeba. They move around a lot. I get that. But we need to see Drew Tranquill play better if the Chiefs are going to stop tight ends. That's my opinion. And maybe we'll see Jaden Hicks get inserted against some guys as well.
Well, Nick Bolton, right? I think he gets too much heat. I said this on Twitter yesterday. I think he gets too much of the blame. And I'm not sure why that is, if he's easier to watch than the safeties are on television, if it's because some prominent people started pointing out some of his deficiencies in coverage and people are more focused on him. Maybe it's because he doesn't try to name search himself on Twitter and bully people when he gets criticized. But he gets all the heat. And I don't see Drew Tranquill getting this heat. And I don't see Justin Reid getting this heat. And I don't see Brian Cook getting this heat. And I think they're all kind of responsible. Actually, Nick Bolton had the best coverage grade of them all, I think, both last week and for the season. Not that he's perfect back there, but I think when you're in the middle of the field playing a lot of zone, that's very tough. Just because he's not glued to people doesn't mean he's necessarily blowing assignments. So I just think that, yes, some of this is by design. The Chiefs want to take away explosive plays, but I think the opposing success rate for opposing offenses right now is 30th in the league. Their bend but don't break defense is giving too much bend. And I think the safeties and the linebackers are responsible for that right now. And I think they can play better, but I'm like you. I think Jaden Hicks is potentially a future star. I want to see him get a few more snaps.
Kansas City.
Number 5. Falcons wide receiver Drake London and CB2 Jalen Watson both line up wide right often. I think it's 71% for Watson and over 50% for Drake London. Who wins this week 3 matchup of emerging players?
Jalen Watson. Now, Drake London will get some of his. Let's be real, he's a really good receiver. But Jalen Watson, for all the talk of who's CB2 and even the team is saying we're a little nervous about who no one's stepping up and taking the job. And then you saw Jalen Watson, the final preseason game, look atrocious. I mean, bad. I know he's coming back off of the labrum surgery and he was injured last year, but I mean, he looked bad. He looks really good through 2 weeks. He looks like a legit CB2. Mm-hmm. It's not Snead, but he looks like a CB2. I've been impressed with Jalen Watson. I like his length. I like his height. I think he finds a way to get it done more often than not against Drake London. I mean, would you say 5 for 50? That's considered doing your job against their wide receiver one? I think, yeah. And I think Jalen Watson will hold Drake London to 50 yards or less.
And Drake London's another player that's kind of the potential ballpark that you talked about with Kyle Pitts. Very similar player, drafted also in the top 10 several years ago. Where I would be the most worried about him doing damage is where he won the game on Monday night. Down there in the red zone, he is kind of an above the rim jump ball player. And Jalen Watson, he's fairly tall, kind of a big guy, should be able to press him, be physical with him, do a fairly good job against him in the red zone. And I've been surprised too. I was leaning maybe a little bit Jalen Watson in terms of intangibles, but Joshua Williams, I think, is the superior athlete. And the fact that he got 6 snaps last week on defense and has gotten leapfrogged by Najee Johnson is surprising. And it's disappointing, honestly, because he, out of all these cornerbacks, I think he has the highest ceiling. And I'm getting to a point where I'm like, I just don't know if he's ever going to recognize this, because Jalen Watson is a guy who I just think intellectually gets the game and it's not too fast for him. The only big mistake I've seen him make this year is I think he might have underestimated Jermaine Burton's speed and let him get behind him a little bit. But outside of that one play, I think he's had a really good year and I've been impressed. And I think he sees that job.
Yeah, and again, Trent McDuffie's been absolutely nails, right? So when you have that should help at least a little bit, because if he's locking down Jamar Chase like he did last week, then you can afford to put, Watson on a guy and maybe shade to him. Maybe you can try and help out. I've been impressed. Again, all the talk about the cornerbacks heading into this season seems to be a little overblown. Although I will say, if an injury were to happen, I would be pretty darn nervous, because you're right. Williams does not look good, and Najee Johnson, quite frankly, didn't look great in those snaps last week either.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
I will add that while Joshua Williams hasn't looked great on defense, he's been awesome on special teams, which he's always kind of been a special teams ace. He had the big play in the Super Bowl, and then pinning the Bengals down on the one was just a huge moment, I thought, for the Chiefs Sunday afternoon. Number 6. Leo Chanel has the second best defensive grade from PFF so far this season, trailing only Chris Jones. What is Leo's ceiling?
Wow. That's a really good question, because I think his skill set is rather specialized. He's not a green dot. He's a really athletic player who's not phenomenal horizontally, especially in coverage. But his coverage grade has been pretty good so far. So maybe you try a little more of that. Maybe it's just like the knock against him, and with a larger opportunity, he continues to shine. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a player. I'm trying to think of who could Leo play like. It's not Roquan Smith. It's not Bobby Wagner. It's not your traditional building block linebackers. Is it like prime Vontae Davis, David? I mean, is it what Pete Warner was supposed to be for the Saints? I'm trying to think of what, because Leo
Clay Matthews. I don't know. I'm trying to
because it's not just an outside linebacker where he just comes off and blitzes the quarterback. He's such a unique chess piece who can also line up as defensive end at times. and apparently as a damn fullback. Like, he's just such an athletic specimen. I've been so impressed by Leo.
I love when Andy Reid gets his hands on one of these defensive freak athletes like Colin Saunders, like Leo Chenal, and he puts him at fullback. I mean, what's it going to hurt? 3, 4, 5, 6 plays a season, gives defenses another look. But I'm with you. If he can develop as a coverage player, he's so good as a spy and as a pass rusher and as a downhill thumper. And he's just, like you said, he's a unique chess piece. But if he can become a full player, a well-rounded linebacker, I think the guy's got a Pro Bowl ceiling. And I thought the same thing about Willie Gay. Willie Gay never, I think we miss him a little bit, frankly, but he never fully put it together. But I think this kid could be kind of special. I think in his own unique way, he already is special. He's just not like a full-time do everything player yet. And you're right. It is really hard to find a comp for him because if you look at his like relative athletic score, he is like, tippy top, like top 10 out of thousands of people. That's how athletic he is. And I wonder if part of this was when he was at Wisconsin, if they just had him going downhill so much that he didn't really learn the nuances of pass coverage.
That's a great call. Because again, it's not like he's lost out there right now. He's I don't know, man. All I know is Leo is incredible so far, and he's still growing.
City.
What did they call it? Like that group of players at Wisconsin, did they call it death row, skid row? I mean, they're calling it death row. I don't see death row dropping back into coverage a whole lot. You know,
you gotta go. So, come on, we have a 3-minute thing. Come on now. What are you doing?
Number seven.
Flag.
Hey, according to all the haters, the Chiefs get all the calls, so I thought I could get away with it. Number 7. What is the deal with Andy Reid and fourth down conversions? Fourth down conversions, fourth down aggressiveness, whatever you want to call it.
Trying to make me angry? I don't know.
Made your dog angry.
Made my dog angry. And my fiance just got home, so the garage door is opening. That's why. Yeah, making me angry. That's why. Go for it, dog. It's 4th and 1. What are you went for it earlier on a 4th and 1 when there was not even the same reward. The reward was a first down. You have 4th and 1. The reward is a touchdown. What is going on, Andy?
I don't get it. 4th and 1 on the 1. If you fail to get it, the Cincinnati Bengals this year cannot run the ball. They've lost Joe Mixon. Zach Moss and Chase Brown don't look very good. You're probably going to force them to punt, and you have a chance at a safety. I also thought the offense was rolling. And when you come out that hot, I thought the interior offensive line and Isiah Pacheco looked awesome. Just punch the Bengals in the mouth. You want to put an exclamation point on that long drive. It was like 16 plays or something. And I just thought it was kind of cowardly. And Andy Reid is a mastermind, right? He has very few weaknesses, very few deficiencies, but he is not the most conservative. He does sometimes get a little old school, get a little conservative on 4th down. Part of me wonders if he doesn't want to get deep into his bag of red zone plays, red zone trick plays this early in the season. But this guy studies like the 1930 Rose Bowl. He has more plays.
Don't take my bit. Don't take my 1924 bit, Adam. You're too close.
You're not the first one to say it, but yes, you did plant the seed now that I think of it. But the guy goes to all esoteric corners of the football world searching for weird plays. I know he has more plays in his Rolodex than he could ever use. There just really is no excuse, especially if you're like looking at win probability and stuff like that. I think it was an easy call to go for it. I know you like Harrison Butker and trust Harrison Butker, but it's the 1 yard line, dude.
Yeah, I thought it was silly. You know my thoughts.
You censored yourself there. I think you're about to drop some.
For for how creative Andy Reid is, fourth down, don't overthink it. The best play, they're not going to do it. The best play in football is the tush push, and then it's the QB sneak, and then just run it. You're
run it with Wentz. Run it with Carson Wentz, right?
I mean, you're paying Creed Humphrey the most of any center in the NFL. Trust him. Get behind the ass and just run.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
Number 8, rookie left tackle Kingsley Suamataia allowed 4 of 8 pressures last Sunday and 2 sacks. Who should get the start on Sunday, Kingsley or Wanya Morris?
This one's hard. You know my thoughts. This is why I said I wanted Wanya to start this season. I almost wanted to use Wanya and Kingsley as how teams use like rookie quarterbacks, almost like a bridge year. Like I think Kingsley is the future left tackle. I think he makes the most sense, but maybe you have lower upside and maybe it's not even that much of an advantage, but let the guy learn. I thought you could let Kingsley learn while Wanya took over the left tackle spot, even if it was only for 6 games. That was why I originally wanted this. And you're kind of seeing the results so far of why. I don't know. Maybe they go Kingsley just so they don't completely destroy his confidence, saying, hey, 2 games in, you're already done. But I wonder how short of a leash he's going to have. Like with Juwan Taylor, when he got pulled against Jacksonville last year. And then he went back in the game, but he got pulled. It happens. Like Juwan should go up to Kingsley and say, hey, dude, I've been there. I got over it. We figured it out. And he talked about it, Kingsley. It was a lot of mechanicals, right? It was a lot of stuff that he understood what he needs to work on. That's a good sign, right? It's not a guy whose confidence was completely killed. It wasn't a guy who was like, I have no idea what I'm doing out there. He's like, no, I think I know what I'm doing wrong. I can fix this. I guess I'd probably lean Kingsley to start and have a short leash, but if he all of a sudden looks bad and that leash ends up happening, man, what does that do at that point to his confidence?
I think you go back to Kingsley because you want to instill confidence in him, and you weren't going to draft a left tackle in the second round, late in the second round, an underclassman at that is a hell of an athlete, hell of a specimen, but the book on him was that he was raw. So you can't give up on this project 2 weeks in. I think it is too early. Now, we've seen Andy Heck, like you mentioned with Juwan Taylor, kind of pull these guys aside, give them a little mental reset, kind of calm them down, maybe talk to them about technique a little bit, get their head back in the right place. And I think if you need to do that periodically, Wanya Morris is a good fail-safe, but I think they should stick with the plan. It sounds like, I think Wanya Morris said today, I forget who reported this, but it sounds like Wanya Morris said that they are both mentally preparing for start. So it appears that neither one of them know who the starter is yet. I still am going to assume it's Suamataia until we hear differently. But also, it must be said, Trey Hendrickson is an awesome player. I think the entire NFL is too low on him. I think he belongs.
Oh, I agree, but
almost right up there with Parsons and those guys.
Max Crosby, Bosa. I mean, right. Again, every team has a guy who's a stud. I mean, Matthew Judon's not Hendrickson, but he's still a damn good player as well. I thought the Chiefs were going to help him out more. The Chiefs did not. They activated Peyton Hendershot for that game, and he played 0 offensive snaps.
Touchdown, Kansas City. And
he's going to play 0 offensive snaps because they let him go. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but they let Peyton Hendershot go. I don't know why. But
he's now back in the practice squad.
Okay. Very, very brief call-up, but I guess they've got some tough decisions to make every week with a limited number of spots on the active roster. Number 9. Another tough one. Who is the most improved player on the roster through 2 weeks?
I almost want to go Leo Chenal. But Leo might be too obvious. You go first. I'll let you go first.
I have 4 candidates, so maybe let's try to figure this out together. The first is Leo. I think the second is Tershawn Wharton, who has looked a hell of a lot better than he did last year coming off the ACL. The third is, we've already talked about him, Rashee Rice, who is blossoming before our eyes. And I think the fourth is Trey Smith, who I think before kind of looked like the third wheel in that interior line. And I think right now he looks very much in the same ballpark, in the same league as Joe Thuney and Kareem Hunt. He was awesome last week. He was kicking ass all over the place. So I think those four guys, and you also mentioned Jalen Watson earlier. I think he's getting more snaps than ever, playing pretty steady. So that would be my top five. I don't know who you would take from that top five, but
yeah, I like that. I think Rice is another. That was the other one I was going to go with, was Rashee Rice. Again, he was really good last year, but he's been electric this year. I mean, he has, again, been in my opinion, the focal point of the offense. I think you're seeing the transition from Kelce to Rice. He has gained such a great understanding of defenses, right? He's such a great job of the soft spots and zone. We're seeing him become a better deep ball threat as well. I mean, Cam Taylor-Britt did not get burned by Xavier Worthy. It was a bad throw. It was underthrown, yes, but he was step for step with Worthy. Rice cooked him, and he's not as fast as Worthy. It was because of the little stutters, the little movement he uses, almost lulling him to sleep. That route running ability is what separates the great wide receivers from the good ones. It's why I think a lot of folks, not a knock on McCole Hardman by any means, but like McCole Hardman, you're like, he's so quick, he's so athletic, but it was all one speed. Defenders understand that. When you have the little stutter step and the stop and start and the lulling, it's what made Travis Kelce so good. And quite frankly, it's what's making Rashee Rice so good. So I think I'll go Rashee Rice for the learning. Just that aspect has grown so much for me.
He's very fluid. Jalen Butler has a great question here. They should pay Trey. I guess it's a statement, but I agree they should pay Trey. I think Trey has to be, I know there's some guys on the defense that are up. I know there are some players who are coming up down the line. They got to bring Trey Smith back, especially when you look at Joe Thuney's age and how Jawan Taylor is playing. I mean, I would get out from under Jawan Taylor's contract.
You can't for one more year.
You can, it's just going to hurt. But like, they need to do what they have to do to make Trey Smith, to extend him.
Kansas City.
Ran out of time there, but I think we're in agreement about that. Number 10, our last question. Will Travis Kelce have a bounce back game this Sunday night?
Yes. I'll go yes. I'm not worried about Travis. I'm really not. I'm not. I know he's talked about on new heights and all that stuff. The focal point of the offense has shifted. And Lou Anarumo always does a great job against Travis Kelce. It's what they do. And then against the Ravens, it was kind of the same thing. They were not going to let Travis beat them. So Xavier Worthy did. And then Rashee Rice did. Eventually teams will say, hey, let's focus on Worthy and focus on Rice. And then Travis is going to eat. They have a 3-headed attack right now with pass catching options. I'm not worried about Travis at all. I'll say he has a good game this week. I'll say 65 plus yards. I feel like that counts.
Well, if you think back to last week, he had a 41-yarder when he was screwing around with the fake lateral. That was nullified by a penalty. So very close to a different day. Also got brought down on the 1-yard line. So he was close to scoring. Wanya Morris ultimately got the touchdown. You love a big man touchdown. But if he scores that touchdown and gets that 41-yard catch, the narrative is much different heading into week 2. And I think without Isiah Pacheco, he has to be more of a focal point of this offense, because no disrespect to Samaje Perine, who I think is going to have a pretty nice role, and Carson Steele, who's a good rookie, and Kareem Hunt and Keontae Ingram might give them a little something. They're not going to be Isiah Pacheco. They're not going to be a guy that's going to get 20 touches or 20 plus touches. It's just not going to happen. So they have lost that physicality, lost that element. Isiah Pacheco is also a speed demon. I mean, he runs so physical. People don't remember that, but he had a faster 40 time than Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. So I think Travis Kelce has to have a bigger role going forward. And for me, I've said this before, but he is kind of the tight end Tom Brady, where people keep predicting his demise every time he has a slump or looks a little banged up, and he always finds his way out of it. And, he's a very cerebral player who doesn't even need that much athleticism to succeed. I mean, we've seen Jason Witten look like he could barely walk out there, and was still getting open because up here he just knew how to beat everybody. So I think Travis Kelce is not at that point, not even close.
Yeah, I could not agree more. The Tom Brady comp is so good. Everyone's like, oh, he's done. And then all of a sudden, come playoff time, he is like the best player on the field. It's what happens. They're going to save him a little bit, although I will say it's slightly concerning is he's playing so many snaps. It's not like the snap count share has been brought back. He's out there and out there more than I think maybe some fans would like to see, especially through 2 weeks.
Waiting.
Oh, I thought you were going to at least have 7 seconds to respond.
Kansas
Touchdown.
No, I've got a bonus question for you really quick. We saw a little bit of Jared Wiley last week, and that tells me that they like him if they're getting him on the field. He looks like almost a wide receiver to me. He is only a move tight end right now. Do you think that he can have a role without being much of a blocker at this point in his career?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Jody Fortson role. And that's kind of what I think we expected him to be this season. Maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of thought of him as that Jody Fortson role early on. Maybe he's in there in the red zone. If he is in the game, he ain't blocking much. Yeah, I think that's my expectation is about the Jody Fortson role.
And hopefully Travis is helping him figure out how to fill out his frame and gradually become a better blocker. But I mean, really, I think he's here to be a receiver. Let's move on to our early score predictions. It's week 3. The Falcons host the Chiefs, Sunday Night Football. Should be fun. We've got Kirk Cousins in the Dome for the first time on national. No. Yeah, because they were in Philly last week. First time on national TV. Kirk Cousins, he can't do it on primetime 2 weeks in a row, right?
We'll see.
I know. What do you think?
Yeah, I got the Chiefs winning this one 27-23. I like the way the Falcons looked late in that game. They looked way better week 2 versus week 1. Week 1, they looked atrocious. I mean, it was brutal. Week 2, you started to see a little bit of why they brought in Kirk Cousins. Was he great? No, but he looked a lot better in up-tempo. Obviously, to end the game, right, when they're running prevent defense, which is another indictment on Vic Fangio and maybe why he's bounced around so much. How do you not put pressure on a quarterback who can't move? That's just so absurd. It's asinine. Yeah, Vic Fangio helped him lose that game. But Kirk took advantage. And even in the first half, when they ran a little up-tempo, he looked pretty darn good. He looked more mobile by a lot. And they stopped running plays out of the pistol. That was stupid. Why would you ever run pistol with Kirk Cousins? Dumb. So it's either shotgun or a lot more under center. You started to see some play action, some traditional play action. I think the defense of the Falcons is good. Not great, but good. We talked about the safeties. I like Grady Jarrett. Obviously, Matthew Judon is a nice piece that they brought in. AJ Terrell, good corner, not great in my opinion, but he got paid like an elite one. Different conversation there. You'll see a familiar face. You'll see Mike Hughes. Mike Hughes, cornerback, is there with the Falcons. And then the offensive line of the Falcons is pretty good. Chris Lindstrom, great guard. Incredible guard. And if he can open up some holes for Bijan on the ground, that could be scary. But I think the Chiefs take care of business and win 27-23.
Man, anytime I hear Mike Hughes' name, I just have a Gabe Davis flashback of him falling down on that touchdown. And of course, it worked out well for the Chiefs because there was still a little bit of time on the clock, but not the greatest memory with that guy. Yeah, I'm bringing my score down. Last week, I predicted the Chiefs offense to score 31 points. Without Isiah Pacheco, the way the left tackle position looks, and just Mahomes really hasn't been himself. That being said, if I were to take one defensive coordinator to game plan for elite quarterbacks and I couldn't pick Steve Spagnuolo, I would pick Lou Anarumo. Then you look at the Ravens, one of the best run franchises in the league. They have stars at every level: Justin Metabike, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, just a bunch of studs. I don't care what their record is. That team's going to be there at the end. just an amazing defense, even though they lost their defense coordinator. This defense is not going to be on the same level as those two defenses. So I think this is a get right game for Patrick Mahomes. I don't think you'll see the silly interceptions. I don't think you'll see as low of an ADOT. And hopefully the pass rush for the Chiefs can get going a little bit. I think that's something that I'm going to have my eyes on. We talked about it right to start the program tonight. I want to see a little bit more from George Karlaftis. I think he can do more. We've seen it in the past. So again, 24-17. I did think this was more of a trap game. The Falcons winning in Philadelphia versus the Eagles on Monday Night Football, maybe they're a little fat and happy, right? That wasn't a game that anybody thought they were going to win. So I like that more than them being 0-2 and desperate to not have their season ended on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I just really want the Chiefs to blitz. If they get pressure on Kirk, it's I think a very, very good sign for the Chiefs.
Yeah, he looks about as mobile as I do. So, and he's not far from my age. So let's finish up with what's spinning. Sterling, what are you listening to this week?
Yeah, Slash by Slash. That album he did, not Slash's Snake Pit, which is also really, really good. I do like Slash's Snake Pit, but that album Slash that he did with a whole bunch of other artists. He's in guitar. You have Dave Grohl coming in. You have the lead singer of Avenged Sevenfold coming in and doing a song. And what's fun is he kind of takes the style of that musician he's almost trying to emulate, right? So the guitar style is almost like Avenged Sevenfold style, but it's Slash playing guitar. He does a song with Fergie that's good. Andrew Stockdale of what is that? Joker and the Thief in the Night, Wolf Mother. Does some songs with Wolf Mother, singer of the Colts in there as well. Some with Miles Kennedy. He does a lot with Miles Kennedy just even now. But this album came out, I think, in 2010. Does one with Lemmy, with Ozzy. It's cool. It's a good album. So Slash by Slash.
So was this the kind of stuff he started doing by himself after he got done with Velvet Revolver? Is it about that time?
Yeah, it was after it'd have been after, right? Because Velvet Revolver had two albums. One was
kind of like mid-aughts, maybe early 2000s.
Fun fact, Velvet Revolver is one of my favorite bands of all time.
Nice.
Yeah, it was post Velvet Revolver because they stopped in 2008 when Scott Weiland obviously passed away. So
sad. One of the most lasting images from my childhood on MTV was Slash in front of the chapel, just ripping that guitar solo on November Rain. Just one of the most iconic moments of the 90s. Love Slash. Also, a few years in a row, I had this top hat. And I just throw on some glasses, not shave. I don't like to shave anyways. I had this wig and a top hat, and I would just go as Slash. And it worked. Everyone knew who I was. It was like just easy, super easy button Halloween costume. Really enjoyed that. I'm going to go with a band out of Kentucky that I really dig, kind of a genre-bending band called My Morning Jacket. They are awesome live. If you ever get the chance to see them, I think they're better live than they are even at home. But they did an album Z, I want to say like 15 years ago. I went to Lollapalooza. This actually was a really cool trip I did with Zach. We went to River Falls to see the Chiefs training camp and saw the Chiefs scrimmage the Vikings. This was the first year of Arrowhead Addict. I'm talking 2007. I know I'm dating myself. So we went up through Wisconsin, and we went to Minneapolis too. And then when we came back down, we caught the last day of Lollapalooza in Chicago. My brother's a big Pearl Jam fan. I like Pearl Jam too. They were the headliner, but My Morning Jacket was the warm-up act. And they had this album Z, which is kind of experimental. And it was just phenomenal live. They brought out this kid's choir to sing with them. Just really cool moments. One of my favorite musical festival moments ever. One of my favorite trips ever. And really was kind of a formative moment in Arrowhead Addict's history, I guess, because that trip was when we said, yeah, we want to do this. We want to keep doing this site. It's a lot of fun. So
that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yes, it was Zach. Doesn't, we don't see him a lot publicly, but he is one of the big drivers, always has been, of this site. So definitely appreciate him. And that was a lot of fun. So that's all we've got for you guys. If you want to do us a favor and you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, please leave us a review. Really, really helps us. Ask us a question on our Thursday show. We will tackle that question. That's a fun, interactive thing we do. Also, be sure to subscribe here on YouTube. Mash that like button if you haven't yet. All that kind of stuff helps us. But until next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central, right here on the Arrowhead Addict channel, I'm Adam Best for Sterling Holmes. Go Chiefs.